Imagine this. You're in the middle of an argument with someone you care about. It's heated. The words fly, and for a brief moment, you catch yourself saying something you swore you'd never say. You knew it was wrong, but something inside you couldn't stop. As the fight escalates, a part of you feels oddly satisfied, like you were drawn to the conflict almost as if you needed it. Have you ever wondered why you go back to the same toxic situations time and time again? Even when you know the outcome, even when it hurts? This is the paradox of human behavior, a cycle we seem unable to break. Repetition compulsion, a phenomenon that forces you into the very situations that traumatize you without your conscious consent. It's as if your mind is addicted to pain. But why? Why do we sabotage our own peace and happiness, seeking out patterns of pain that we know are destructive? Could it be that the human mind is wired to repeat its own suffering? Segment 1: The Disturbing History of Repetition Compulsion. Repetition compulsion isn't just a quirky behavior or a bad habit you can fix with willpower. Its roots run deep into the foundations of modern psychology, first identified by Sigmund Freud in the early 20th century. Freud noticed something unsettling in his patients. They didn't just remember traumatic experiences. They unconsciously recreated them. A war veteran would relive battlefield terror and recurring nightmares. A person abandoned as a child would repeatedly choose partners who withdrew. Someone humiliated in youth would find themselves in situations that ended the same way: exposed, dismissed, diminished. It wasn't coincidence. Freud proposed something radical, a force beyond the simple pursuit of pleasure. He called it the death drive, a subconscious pull toward destruction, toward familiar pain, toward unfinished emotional business. According to this theory, the mind repeats trauma not because it enjoys suffering, but because it is trying desperately to master it, to rewrite the ending, to finally gain control. And yes, it sounds irrational, but look closer. Have you ever ended up in a relationship that felt eerily similar to a past one? Different face, same dynamics, same emotional outcome. Repetition compulsion is the mind's tragic loop, replaying old wounds in new settings, hoping this time the story will end differently, but often it doesn't. Segment 2: The Scientific Explanation and Symptoms. Neurologically speaking, repetition compulsion isn't about weakness. It's about wiring. When you experience trauma, especially repeated or unresolved trauma, your brain shifts into survival mode. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. The amygdala, your brain's threat detector, becomes hyperactive. The hippocampus, responsible for organizing memory into a coherent timeline, can become disrupted. The result? The memory doesn't settle properly. Instead of being filed away as something that happened, it remains emotionally alive, raw, fragmented, and easily triggered. The limbic system, which governs emotion and memory, locks onto the intensity of the experience: pain, fear, abandonment, humiliation. These emotions burn deeply into neural circuits, and over time the brain begins to associate that emotional intensity with familiarity. And familiarity feels safe, even when it's destructive. This is the paradox. Your nervous system may start mistaking chaos for normal. Calm can feel foreign. Stability can feel suspicious. But emotional turbulence, that feels like home. In some cases, the dopamine system involved in reward and motivation also plays a role. The brain can become conditioned to the highs and lows of dramatic emotional cycles. The intensity itself becomes reinforcing, not because it's pleasant, but because it's known. Symptoms of repetition compulsion often include reliving past trauma, intrusive memories, flashbacks, or recurring dreams that replay unresolved events. Unhealthy relationship patterns, repeatedly choosing partners who mirror past neglect, control, or emotional unavailability. Self-sabotage, undermining opportunities, pushing away healthy connections, or recreating crises just as life becomes stable. From the outside, it looks irrational. From the inside, it feels inevitable. It's as if the brain is trying to rewrite the ending of an old story, replaying it again and again, hoping this time it will resolve differently. But what happens when the ending never changes? What happens when the echo becomes your identity? Segment 3: A famous real-world case study. Consider the infamous case of Christine, a woman who had been in and out of abusive relationships throughout her adult life. Despite therapy and understanding the root of her issues, Christine found herself back in the arms of a man who would emotionally break her. In one of her counseling sessions, she admitted, "I know he'll hurt me, I know this will end badly, but I don't know what to do without the pain. Christine's story is not unique. Repetition compulsion manifests in countless ways across different walks of life. In fact, many individuals end up in destructive cycles because, deep down, their minds are addicted to the emotional intensity that comes with conflict, chaos, and unresolved pain. It becomes their normal. But why does this happen? Why would anyone consciously choose pain over peace? Repetition compulsion operates on a psychological level that is difficult to grasp. On one hand, the cycle offers familiarity, a known chaos where the brain can predict the emotional highs and lows, even if those highs are destructive. On the other hand, the pain feels like a twisted form of comfort. In Christine's case, despite her outward desire for a healthy relationship, the tumultuous nature of her past created a kind of emotional dependency on the drama. The highs of the arguments, the desperation, the emotional roller coaster, these feelings, while damaging, became intertwined with her sense of self-worth. This cycle is pervasive. It appears not only in abusive relationships but also in friendships, careers, and family dynamics. People often end up in toxic situations because the emotional intensity that comes with them is oddly comforting. It's a form of psychological addiction, where the mind craves intensity even if it's harmful. It's a phenomenon many of us experience without fully understanding it. The tragedy lies in the fact that these emotional highs are temporary, and the aftermath leaves a deeper, more painful scar. So we cycle back to the beginning, repeating the pattern, believing that somehow, this time, the outcome will be different. The reality is, the more we feed into the cycle, the harder it becomes to escape. Each repetition strengthens the neural pathways associated with that pain, making it even more difficult to break free. But what's even darker is that, for many, breaking the cycle feels impossible. The mind doesn't just crave the pain, it begins to need it. And with every iteration the belief grows, this is all I deserve. It's a deeply ingrained self-punishment, one that mirrors the hurt of the past, keeping us imprisoned within our own emotional prisons. The twist in application. Now you might be thinking, I don't have any past trauma or abuse in my life. But here's the unsettling truth. Repetition compulsion isn't limited to dramatic, headline-worthy trauma. It doesn't require a catastrophic childhood or a single defining tragedy. Sometimes it grows quietly in the background of ordinary life. Have you ever noticed yourself making the same mistake at work, trusting the wrong colleague, procrastinating at the worst time, shrinking yourself in meetings? Have you ever fallen for the same personality type over and over again, even when you promised yourself you wouldn't? Different face, same emotional pattern. That's not coincidence. It's familiarity, and the human brain is deeply loyal to what feels familiar, even if that familiarity is stressful, dismissive, or emotionally unavailable. Think about it. Have you ever stayed in a friendship that drained you because the tension felt normal? Stayed at a job that exhausted you because the anxiety felt predictable? Predictability, even painful predictability, can feel safer than the unknown. The mind doesn't just crave happiness, it craves what it recognizes. And if discomfort was normalized early on, subtle criticism, emotional distance, instability, your nervous system may register those dynamics as home, so you gravitate toward them, not because you enjoy suffering, but because your brain confuses familiarity with safety. And when pain starts to feel like identity, breaking the cycle can feel like losing yourself. If we're all trapped in this cycle of repetition, whether we realize it or not, then how do we break free? Is it possible to rewrite the narrative we've been living for so long? There's one key to escaping this cycle: awareness. But how can awareness lead to freedom? And what happens when the past meets the present in ways that are almost impossible to untangle? If you've ever felt stuck in your own patterns, then you won't want to miss the next video, because there's something dark hiding within your own mind, and understanding it might be the first step to freeing yourself from the past. And that is why you need to watch the next videos.